wanted to know what would your nemesis be? I guess what would your bizarro version of you be?
The bizarro version of me.
Bald white guy.
I was somebody without hair. No, I think the bizarro version of me would be somebody who does things on time. Somebody who doesn't procrastinate. Somebody who doesn't complain, because I'm king complainer. Although I do end up doing the thing that I'm complaining about. But I do complain. But it'd be but that's funny because I also think the alternate version of me would be the person who doesn't do things, because I've been told that I'm a person who does things. When I want to do them, I do them. But in I'm just gonna go do it. So it's they might not procrastinate; they just might not do it at all. That would be the bizarro version of me.
I see. Okay.
But that's a great question. I've never thought about what the bizarro. What's bizarro you doing?
Quiet, very humorless. Wears a lot of flannel.
That's doesn't like bugs.
Probably lives in a log cabin somewhere.
I could That's both of us. We are city boys, or at least suburb boys.
Yeah.
we must be in civilization.
I'm also outgoing to a degree, so
you are very outgoing.
It's someone that wants to have a fun time. So this person would just be and I'm not saying this is a negative, but someone that just is nose in a book always. There's no time. That's not again. That's not me saying readings, but I'm just saying it's more their priority isn't to be more introverted. It's to be more I'm just gonna sit here and read this read an instruction manual for 9 hours.
Bizarro version of me would be very extroverted, I think. I love to be in the house.
I know you do. But you know how to have a good time also.
I do love to be in the house. I do love being in the house. So
I'm Aaron Neuwirth. I am the editor-in-chief at Wheel of Entertainment. I am the co-host of Out Now with Aaron and Abe, and I am a huge Godzilla fan.
My name is Terence Johnson. I'm the owner of LeNoirTour.net, and I have seen some Godzilla movies.
And this is Two Black Guys Talk Godzilla. Here we are. 4 movies in to the Heisei era.
The Heisei era.
It's weird. I don't know.
I have been, as our YouTube comments have informed me.
I mean, to be fair, it's a Japanese word, so there's not really an American pronunciation of it.
Heisei according to Google Translate.
Oh well,
and
Google Translate says.
So to the commenters, I have seen it. I am changing my ways. I will call it the Heisei era.
It is EIEI, and I do say Heisei. They're two different pronunciations. I know I'm probably not right. However, I do argue the point that it doesn't ultimately matter. Because I was speaking Japanese.
Heisei for all of you out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know that I do see the comments, and I peer through the comments. I don't take it to heart, but I do see the comments. Because I'm the one uploading the YouTube videos.
As you're scrolling
in the TikToks.
TikTok.
Yeah, the TikToks. But no, here we are for another video recording.
Yes.
On the heels of
Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah.
Yes, I was on a road trip. Or not a road trip. I was on the road for that one. And now we're back in my house.
Yeah, the road this is home territory. I feel we do try to split these up evenly is the idea here.
Yeah, that's the goal.
But yes, we're back here in Johnson Station. And today we're talking, of course, Godzilla versus Mothra, or Godzilla and Mothra, The Battle for Earth, 1992's film. I figured you'd be excited for this one because Mothra's one of your faves.
I do love Mothra, yes.
And there is plenty of Mothra as well as just flying creatures in this film in general. And only so much larva Mothra, so I mean I figured that
because you know it's just it's ugly. Sorry.
We'll get back to this. We'll get back to the 1992 version of larval Mothra.
Yeah.
But I guess let's get to it. Let's get to the trailer. Let's throw some of that up. Okay, so that should have been some of the trailer for Godzilla versus Mothra. I'm going to read here a. Let's see, what's a. Okay, I'm going to read this middle one because it's not too long.
Okay.
The Earth is headed for disaster.
Oh.
And when an archaeological research team visits Infant Island to find out why, they discover two tiny women who reveal that the Earth is fighting back for all the harm humans have done here and sends out evil Battra to destroy us. The Cosmos, as the girls are called, offer their help by calling Mothra to battle the creature. Unfortunately, Godzilla also appears, and a three-way battle begins that threatens to destroy Japan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
The film is directed by Takao Okawara, who also directed The Return of Godzilla, Godzilla '84. Just to throw that out there on top of things, where between the other director, Shiro will be back. Or no, they won't be back till.
It was like a sure Honda.
No, but because we had the Bellante and Ghidorah did back-to-back films,
Yeah.
but then the other director will be back for this thing Destroya later on. But regardless, okay, we've just watched this movie. This is the fourth time out, like I said, for the Heisei era. This was a huge hit. I'm just going to throw that out there right there.
I believe it.
Ghidorah was already kind of a, we need to get back to something people like after Biollante underperformed box office-wise. This was an even bigger hit. It has a weird record where outside of King Kong versus Godzilla, which still has like the most number of tickets sold for any Godzilla movie up until more recent years because just the way the world works, Abira had held the record for the most tickets sold for a Godzilla movie up until this movie came out, and then Shin Godzilla lapped this one. But so this wasn't like, it was a hit. People wanted to see this. People were excited about Mothra. The idea here, compared to Ghidorah, which I'm not going to say it was super dark and gritty, this one was geared to be more of a family film. It was more scaled backwards to be more kid-friendly, even though, again, I'd argue that Ghidorah isn't exactly an adult feature. But that's generally the idea. They wanted, I think you can tell right out from the outset, given like the Indiana Jones style opening, it does have a sort of friendlier feel than, time-traveling robots murdering people while King Ghidorah does his thing.
Yeah.
So here we are now. We've seen the movie. What did you think of King Kong, Godzilla versus Mothra?
I enjoyed this one. I've tended to enjoy most of the ones that Mothra is in. I think Mothra is a very compelling kaiju. I think having the demon caterpillar, Battra, in this was really fascinating. I did not know what. This is my introduction to Battra.
We've been careful because the word's been tossed around you, and I'm like, don't tell them any more about what Battra is.
Oh, Battra. Yeah, I literally thought a bat was gonna pop out. I really enjoyed this one. I do think it's a lot of fun. It's very propulsive. It's got a lot of interesting energy. I have like a big question for us.
Okay.
As we talk about this. Is this movie playing the hits, or is it doing what the kids these days call reheating the nachos?
What would you say is the difference between the two?
I think playing the hits is like, you have certain things that have to come with certain characters, right? Like the twins, if Mothra is going to be in a movie, the twins have to be there, which is something that, when we get to the legendary ones, would be very interesting to have a conversation because of the way that they did that. You'll get the song, you'll get the larva and the webbing and all of those things, versus like the reheating the nachos, which was like a businessman. The twins get kidnapped. They want to use them for. At first, I was like, "Oh, what a fun callback!" But then the more we kept calling back, the more I was like, "Oh, but are we just like all when we first met Mothra way back in 1964?
Yeah,
these were the elements that made up that movie. So when we do this one, we got to bring them back in a way." So it's something that struck me as I was watching it, because I think some of the ways that they played the hits worked very well. And then some of the ways if Hedorah would have popped up in this, I wouldn't have been shocked because of the way they were talking about what humanity has done to the planet. But the thing about it is, you're not seeing much of what humanity has done to the planet. It's just like this overall morals. So when the movie started to try and get into that, I was like, oh, I don't even know if we need that in this. Just like Battra
Mhm.
is Mothra's opposite, and Godzilla is up here messing everything up. This meteorite has hit, so it has raised both of them from the dead because of this ancient prophecy. Therefore, this stuff is continuing, and humans are sort of just the pawns in this overall cosmic scheme. I think when it tries to dig a little, when it tries to get a little into the morality of stuff, I'm like, I don't know if this quite works, but it is very buoyant. It is clearly made by somebody who loved Indiana Jones. It's made by a lot of people who love it. Maybe a little too much love Indiana Jones, but they do like it. Raiders of the Lost Ark is an incredible film. Um, but I overall I did enjoy it, but I do think it's interesting to think about it in terms of like how much of it is paying homage and dealing in the history of these characters versus like, oh, I'm taking this, and this, and we're gonna put it in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think however you look at it in terms of either reheating the nachos or playing the
Uh
hits,
huh.
the film is. I don't think it's ever winking at us with its choices.
Yeah.
I think it's making the right decisions as far as how to utilize Mothra and everything that comes with
Mm-hmm.
Mothra. I feel like it's playing fair in that regard. So if you're going to make a Mothra movie, I'd also be thrown off if you didn't have a lot of those things.
Yeah.
So I think the way the movie utilizes them isn't to the film's detriment or feels like it's just a tired excuse to use those qualities. I think because Mothra is such a unique character within Godzilla's kaiju universe
Mm-hmm.
that has her own backstory and lore, I think the film does a good enough job of finding ways to utilize those things in a way that
Mm-hmm.
is both referential to the past but also updated to a point as far as just the way we're seeing things. Like, I mean, having a Battra, for example, I mean, that's just
Yeah.
that's something new. Um,
Yeah.
and
Demon Caterpillar.
yeah, so like in that regard, I feel like they do they do Mothra justice, um, in a way where compared to Ghidorah, they found like a whole new angle on Ghidorah, right? By
Yeah.
by showing an origin of sorts and different things to do with Ghidorah as far as taking off a head and then growing a new one out of
Yeah. The
robot
cyborg,
pieces. So it's like okay, like
cyborga, as
if
I've
we're
been calling,
if
as
we're
I
doing
called it. Yeah.
yeah, if we're doing this revisit and next week is a Mecha Godzilla movie, so you'll see how they utilize Mecha Godzilla.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna. It's fun to watch the kind. Again, that's a lot of what I like about the Haze era is that they're finding ways to bring back these old monsters, and they're doing it in a way that's like, all right, how do we? What's the modern take on this? What's
Mm-hmm.
the version that makes sense? And I think,
Yeah.
and with even with Mothra, I mean Mothra, like it arrives like there's or whatever with this whole with the meteor thing. It's all different.
Yeah.
There's tweaks, is what I'm saying. As far as the movie goes, I like this movie fine. I do think I just like, and maybe I'm allergic to this director because I'm not huge on Return of Godzilla,
Mm-hmm.
and this one, not for lack of trying, but it does. When I see this one, it's like I feel like all the pieces are there for me to like it more, and I even admire that it's trying to go like for an Indiana Jones riff, and whether it's not necessarily a momentum thing, but just something about like you were mentioning the sort of how it's trying to make it relevant in terms of like what
Yeah.
we've done to the earth. Just something. There's something about like the passion I see in this that feels like it's lacking. In the same way where '84 to me feels like okay, we've brought Godzilla back, but why? I'm not against the idea of Godzilla
Yeah.
coming back, but it does feel like compared to Honda, who clearly has a passion for doing this for reasons beyond just I want to make a monster movie. This one doesn't feel like it quite escapes that.
I think it sort of hits the story hits like just a speed bump
Uh
at a
huh.
certain point in this movie. It hits a speed bump, and you're kind of like, this movie had like the action in it is incredible when you get to it,
Yeah.
but like in between the water stuff and then the final sort of just city just in glitter and laser eyes and thunder and all of like that stuff is it's really cool, but in between that it doesn't. I think the tough thing for like you love Indiana Jones
Yes, I do.
and I love Indiana Jones, and I think the tough thing for me was like it didn't carry the Indiana Jones spirit the whole way through.
I
It
would agree there for
it
sure.
I think what you might be tripping up on, and it's why I said the story hits a speed bump, is just that it feels like it's trying to be like the modern day rip off of that, and then it like stops trying to be the modern day rip. Right? We go to the we're in the sort of temple, and he's stealing the artifact, and then he's put in jail, and then we go to the island, and then we are in Japan
Hmm.
for the rest of the movie.
Yeah,
And there's no like really daring escape to try and get the twins back. They do get them back, like the biggest thing our hero is escaping is paying child support, right? Like,
yeah,
and I wrote down my notes. I was like, I do think it's hilarious that like a main through line of this movie is his ex-wife
yeah.
dragging him for not paying child support, and then but it's like the spirit of adventure stops.
I no, I feel like there's a good. It's not about I don't want to rewrite the movie, but I do think because we have Infinite Island, which is the main island for Mothra, and
Hmm.
yet we don't really go there. We just kind of are there for a bit, and then and part of it's probably because they don't necessarily want to like deal with the people of Infinite Island,
Yeah, I
which is
don't.
like I can
Are they
understand.
still putting people in blackface at this point in
I can
time?
I can understand. Well, I mean, they very well clearly chose not to go there to have to worry about it. So I can understand that to a point. At the same time,
Don't want to do that again.
there's a version of
Yeah.
you can just do be like the island's been abandoned. Why? And then you
Yeah.
figure out what. So something along those lines where it keeps them in that sort of action like setting
Hmm.
that would then be more akin to something like an Indiana Jones movie. That's not what they chose to do, so I can't blame the movie for not doing it. But at the same time, yes, compared to King Ghidorah, which I think is pretty continuous in its aping of various genres, bringing stuff together. This one just does kind of drop it. Like
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
very much
In a
does feel like it's attempting that at first to give you like a flavor, like this is what this one is, but it doesn't really hold through on a consistent level. And I do think there's something missing there because it would have made the Heyman plot a little more interesting. I think this time around, I don't need like the giant level of continuity, but at the same time, it's like this would have been nice if we had
yeah.
like maybe a tighter cast
Yeah. And
and they're made up of at least two of the people from the previous film, and we still have
we still have Homegirl.
homegirls, but yeah, she's a psychic. She's got to be back there
Yeah,
somewhere.
but
Psychics are
she
doing,
didn't do
but
anything.
exactly doesn't do much. So it's like, and you could have easily made her related to the guy in some way or something like that in a manner that felt more
Yeah.
significant to the story, and then it tightens everything up and perhaps gives it a little more focus as opposed to kind of again, it's not a big sprawl, but I wasn't the most intrigued by this human story either. And if you're not going
Yeah.
to do the Indiana Jones thing, which it kind of sets out to do, it just kind of spirals from there as far as where like my
Yeah.
priorities seem to be.
I think we needed like some sort of daring rescue of the twins
Yeah, something like that could be cool.
from that same guy, and then maybe would have, because I do think that that character, was a compelling character.
It sets him up to be like, even if he's not like a not necessarily flawless, but like a scrappy hero, you can still. It's just as fun to watch someone that's like kind of sucks at it, but still is trying to get by. Like there's
Yeah.
a version of that also works, and this movie doesn't really do either with that. It just makes
Hmm.
him kind of kind of a guy's like this guy kind of sucks, like,
Yeah.
and with like nothing else to redeem him except he occasionally gets stuff.
Because I think, and the reason why I'm like, I wish I thought that the movie did have, there's some interesting mythology being built
Sure,
into
yeah.
this era, like the twins being like, the Earth is a living being and it's offended. It's like, okay, we're getting back into climate issues.
Hmm.
We're getting back to all of these things. Of course, this movie doesn't. That's why I was like, I almost was like, Adora is gonna pop up in this, maybe, and that wouldn't that be something else? Um, but I felt that because we don't see enough of it,
Hmm.
i- it's sort of, it's like, okay, this is a rich thematic, but like the humans aren't, like, you have the sort of bumbling guy who's like, I need to take this egg back to my boss, and then he can't get the egg, so we take the twins, and it's like, oh, we need it just, even though I enjoyed it, and I think there's a big reason why I enjoyed it is just because I think the kaiju action in
Yeah,
this
we'll talk about that.
is
Yeah,
incredible. But yeah, like the story does just it just hits a point where it's like, oh, so like all of the fun that we were having up to this point, like we're just not doing fun anymore. We're just doing regular story,
yeah.
which, movies can transition, but it's like a really harsh transition, especially because like once the daughter gets into it, once the family dynamics are back established, right? Like you're starting to pull in things that could be really interesting for your characters, and we just don't do
and the
much.
setup is strong, especially like we're coming off. If we're watching these in a row, for me, it's 2 weeks of Godzilla films that have some wacky, bonkers ass plots that are really fun to me
Yeah,
to get into. And then you're telling me like, and now this one's going to be Indiana Jones, and I'm like, well, that's fun. That sounds great. Let's do
yeah.
that. And then it just kind of doesn't deliver in the same way that the previous film delivers. Terminator, Back to the Future, and the film before that delivers Little Shop of Horrors meets
Yeah.
kaiju movies. So this one around, it's like, oh, I never got the Ark of the Covenant does become a
Terminator,
kaiju.
Back to the
like,
Futures, Voltron, Power Rangers.
mhm.
All in. Yeah.
But yes, we do get a lot of astounding kaiju action as well as kaiju design. I mean, we have to redesign Mothra for a new generation, and first you get
Still cute.
first you get the larval Mothra.
Ugly. Still ugly.
It looks like a manatee and a buoy combined, and
It looks like a rotting skull.
there's a bit where it's a bit where, of course, the twins sing to signal Mothra to come, and it's just kind of like bouncing through the water.
I do miss the overt train sounds when Mothra was moving through the city. I did miss that.
Yeah, but okay, so then it eventually does kind of rapid, cocoons itself up by covering the city in silk, and I assume the
Of
city's
course.
like, so we got to be here too. Like, I love to see more citizen reactions to like what's going on outside when
That's what I was
Mothra's
talking
around.
in the movie. I was like, imagine you just minding your business, and suddenly two gigantic flying bugs and Godzilla show up in the city.
And now just imagine you're like trying to get out of your house. Like, what happened? I can't open the. Oh, there's
You're just
there's
getting
silk all outside. I can't.
You're
open
getting
the
hit
door.
by a spider web.
I guess
a
rain in
gigantic,
tonight, guys.
a gigantic spider web. Yeah, yeah. That Mothra emerges from that in glitter.
And it looks great. It
does.
It's a really cool design. And Battra's a cool design too. You create like a counter.
It's like a beetle.
Yeah, it's like a
beetle.
bee beetle kind of thing.
A beetle butterfly.
And it's like its face is evil.
Yes.
Like when you look at Battra, you're not like, well, that's one of the nice ones. Like that's
No,
clearly like
I literally
designed
wrote
to
down
look
here.
evil.
I have evil caterpillar with laser eyes and electric powers. I have a demon bug.
But it's not like hideous. You know what I mean? Like
No, it's
it,
not.
it doesn't.
But it's evil. It does look evil.
It looks evil, but
Yeah.
it's not like it doesn't look like I can't look at this thing kind of thing. And the
Which
way
I'm glad,
the way
'cause
that you react to like a larval Mothra.
You know how I feel about giant bugs. So
so it has those things going for it. They're colorful, and it's especially great because this movie's a lot of night action specifically. It's not a lot like there's a pretty good like ocean fight early on between
which I
Godzilla
want
and
to talk
Battra.
about.
But like a lot of the climactic portions of the film are all taking place at night, which we don't get very often.
It's amazing that all of the filmmakers in these modern movies had these films as templates about how Godzilla battles could look at night, and we're gonna get to 2014.
You're gonna just create these problems, and then I'm gonna just sit here being like, my eyes seem fine.
I'm just like, but I know what the potential. It's like freaking glitter raining from the sky.
Potentially from a certain degree. I mean,
God, they do. In
there's a difference between CG and puppetry.
In King of the Monsters, they get something about it right. But yeah, man, I think we have to talk about the underwater.
Okay, so let's talk about the underwater stuff.
This is what I know why this was a big hit, because the people who suffered through Ibira, were like, oh, this is what I expected to get out of Ibira.
Yeah,
like an extended underwater. I was like, what is Battra doing down there? And they were really fighting underwater. It was incredible.
It's a cool fight. It makes it, whatever. Obviously, it's not.
Is this where they got the inspiration? Is this where it'd be interesting to think about King Godzilla versus Kong? Godzilla, right? Godzilla versus Kong.
Yeah.
I just can't remember. And all of the Kong, the new titles just blend together into like one singular title, so I can never remember what the title.
Versus,
so the verses, in the verses, where they got the idea to do like the big sort of carrier fight from this.
I wouldn't specifically say from this, but as
but
they have they have history of have we ever seen Godzilla fight underwater, and there's an example. I mean, I
just meant like.
No,
as Mothra is born, we're starting to fight on we're using all of the.
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like I can't speak exactly to like we're referring back to Mothra versus Godzilla from 1992, but like I can understand the idea of being like, oh, we have like textual evidence that they've done this before. So yeah, we
Yeah.
can live piece here from there.
It's fun.
I
Yeah,
mean, the whole idea is that for that movie specifically is that it's like Godzilla's in his environment, so he can use that to his
yeah.
advantage, and that's like the point. But yeah, no, I hear what you're
The
saying,
underwater stuff here was
and it looks
incredible.
cool if you're trying to find an innovative way to be like, well, we can't obviously like sink two giant, heavy suits into water. We
I
can at
wonder if
least
they shot it like they did in '54, where they had they did like a tank, but like the tank is in
like
front
in
of.
front of it. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I wouldn't be surprised if it did something similar to that because since it's so practically
yeah.
achieved. I mean, obviously, just like put certain layers in front of things
Hmm.
just based on the way you can do a front and rear screen
It was
projections
really
or
cool.
whatnot. But
I
regardless,
enjoyed
yes,
it. Yeah,
it looks about as good as you can do for that time using suitmation
yeah.
techniques. Yeah, it looks really cool.
I enjoyed that, and then of course the climactic battle at night.
Hmm.
I loved. I love. It's up there in terms of favorite battles of things that we've seen. I loved the different stages, the different you know battle moments, and what it meant. I loved the glitter and the thunderbolts and the atomic breath and the blood spewing for like I just thought it was really amazingly done, that
and
final battle.
and the allegiances as far as shifting things around
Yeah.
and like who's fighting who and what have you. Like
Hmm.
it yeah, there's a lot of fun to get out of that. For like if you're watching a movie called Godzilla versus Mothra, you obviously would want to get your money's worth in that
Yeah,
regards, and the film knows how to like give you that
I
big
thought
climax.
at a certain point I was like, oh, they're gonna team up, Godzilla versus Mothra, but they're gonna team up because
Because
they
they got
gotta
to
take
take on
down the other
Battra.
one.
It's like nope.
No, but it's actually Mothra and
Yeah,
Battra are
it's
teaming
a
up.
whole yin and yang situation between
Yeah,
them.
and they they settle on the ground. They have their telepathic glitter-filled conversation.
Hmm.
Um, Godzilla tried to drop a Ferris wheel on Mothra and then got smacked with the same Ferris wheel. And it was really what I'm appreciating about these movies too
Hmm.
in the Heisei era is how we are defeating Godzilla but leaving the room for him to come back.
Yeah, it.
I think the conclusion of like these two bugs are gonna fly Godzilla away from everybody. Godzilla has essentially mortally wounded one of them, but is so weak himself that we can drop him in the ocean and it's like come back in 2 years to see what has happened next.
Yeah, because the films, as of now, are very much keeping Godzilla in like the villainous light.
Hmm.
It is making good use of finding ways where it's like, all right, here's another foe against. Damn it, Godzilla's back. We got to deal with this now.
Yeah.
Like it, the way it creates these threats where it's like, okay, and it shifts power, right? Like, we talked about this last week with Ghidorah also, where it's like Ghidorah was a threat, so it's like, well, I guess we got to wait for Godzilla to get here.
Yeah.
What else we're gonna do? But then it's like, oh, now Godzilla's fighting the city. Fortunately, those time travelers came back and they made a Mecha Ghidorah, so we can like the way it shifts things around. So it's giving audiences kind of
Yeah.
a lot of what they want as far as you're getting both the villainous Godzilla that destroys cities and needs to be stopped, as well as the anti-hero Godzilla that needs to stop the greater threat at the
Yeah.
time. And
Yeah, I thought this was going to be the start of Godzilla turning into like more heroic, and then the movie was like, no,
you got we.
which I enjoyed.
I don't want to get to when or
At some
if
point,
that even
because
happens, but
in terms of
yeah.
villains we have left,
Hmm.
Mecha, Space
Space
Godzilla,
Godzilla.
whatever Destroyer is.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's probably like it's like at some point in that run, just knowing Mecha in particular, it's like
Mhm.
okay, well, the Mecha Godzilla has never been nice. So it's at some point the anti-hero of it will come into play. As far as the other two, um I don't know anything about them. My assumption, and folks can laugh at me when I'm proven wrong when we finally watch this movie, but like Space Godzilla seems like it's going to have something to do with this meteor that Mothra has flown off to try and stop, or there's something to that.
There's a lot of things going in and out of space so far.
Yeah,
in the
we're
series.
dealing
Let's
with
put
out of
that
space
out
stuff.
there.
We're dealing with a lot of this, and in this way, we just talked about reheating the nachos versus playing the hits.
Yeah.
I think in this way, they found a way to sort of acknowledge um, and innovate on the outer space elements, right? It's like at a certain point, in the Showa era, it was just like aliens,
Mhm.
and that was the villain. It was like every movie. I think I don't know if Invasion of Astro Monster was the first one, if there was another one that was
It was three-headed monster.
yeah, three-headed monster, right? So it's like, okay, outer space, and it was like, all right, aliens, all right, now Kylax, all right, now this, all right, now that, and it's like we constantly kept going, and they're making this series, and they're like, okay, like every movie can't be a new alien, but
Space is a big place.
other things from space can contribute,
Uh-huh.
right? Ghidorah, obviously. You can have time travelers. You can have, you can.
I mean, but it is way simpler to be like they came from this part of the galaxy as opposed to being like we got to figure out a fucking sorry, we got to figure out a time travel device now
yeah.
that and work
just
the
like,
logic.
I just like the innovation
Sure.
on
And that's
that.
again that
Yeah.
I mean I'm a huge fan of the Heisei era. So like this
Yes.
is why. It's because it's fairly contained. It's making some choices that are reflecting of both how do we incorporate our old friends as well as how do we incorporate some new ones.
Hmm.
It has some recurring character. There's a lot of like all this stuff here. I think for the most part, even if I'm not like super
Super
high on
enthused. Yeah.
two of these, you know, it's still like it's working for me as far as well. We don't need to go big like the Showa era again. What if we like condense this a bit and like found a new
Yeah.
route to
It's
take?
it's strong in that
And
respect.
yes, and we haven't even got there's a couple other elements that are coming up that we haven't got to yet that I really also appreciate about the Heisei era.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I do think it was interesting. I'm trying to read my notes here on my computer screen of like um about how the humans had more smoke for Mothra than they ever have for Godzilla. They were trying to tear Mothra up.
yeah, they
They
really
were like
wasn't the
Mothra is rolling through the city, blow it up.
wasn't the best welcoming committee for Mothra. That's for sure.
They were like Mothra is just swimming, minding her business, blow her up. Mothra is in a populated city center trying to go away by virtue after the twins have finally decided to tell Mothra to go away instead of they like, what we could do? Blow her up.
They're tired.
Like,
Humans are tired of giant monsters.
blow up Godzilla. Y'all have not had this much smoke for Godzilla, and he's been tearing y'all up for when did the Heisei era start? 84?
Yeah.
10 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were.
Well, it's been yearly now, right? Now it's like, first Biolante, now Ghidorah came back.
And
Biollante, now we got the Mothra again.
Biollante didn't even do too much. Biollante was
Biollante innocent.
Well,
I
won't go that far.
Well,
but certainly,
I mean, I wouldn't. If Godzilla wasn't there, like who knows what Biollante would have been just the end of Little Shop of Horrors. But it just would have kept growing.
Subsequent to the events you have just witnessed.
I was gonna say something.
Don't feed the plants.
Don't feed the plants. Exactly. What was I gonna say?
You see, Battra came and influenced the podcast. Battra or Batra?
I call it Battra.
I'm sure the people in the comments will tell me.
Mothra, Battra.
Yeah. I honestly was expecting a bat to pop up. I have to say that I was like, oh great, a giant bat, a giant moth, and a dinosaur are gonna start fighting.
I remember what I was gonna say. Speaking of the filmmaking, specifically the way Godzilla is portrayed in this movie, it looks great.
Yes,
like that's something that we did. I'm not a huge fan of the look of Godzilla in '84, but you mentioned the cinematography and like how they're shooting these movies or whatnot. And this is another example, I think, of we're getting these, these influences and these '90s filmmakers and what have you that just have like a different way and more advancing of how you can like shoot around a soundstage like this with these giant guys in suits and the way they show Godzilla. From its intro where it's like popping out of the water or popping out of like volcano-like area, just like areas of heat, these helicopter shots that are like following him as he's walking around and makes him look enormous. That stuff's like really cool in this movie.
I agree. I like what I'm loving about this period, and then it's going to be intrigued as we go forward and we compare it to, the American ones that are coming down the line. And then something like -1, like I'm really fascinated by like the way the lighting design and the colors and the way the director, like I'm not necessarily tracking the directors, and you have all of the knowledge in that respect, but like I can see it's like, oh, like that director did return and then like stepped up what the visuals
I can see
of
that for
Godzilla would
sure.
be.
Yeah.
And I do think it's really important with this Godzilla suit in particular because it is not as personable
Mm-hmm.
as the ones from the Showa era,
No.
right? Like the neck doesn't move in the same way, and the mouth doesn't, and like the eye, it's not as expressive in the eyebrows, and so in this one we did get a lot of good expressions and a lot of close-ups on the face that I thought really
Yeah.
sold it. But it's like, okay, well, how can we show malice, but how can we show personality? It's like, okay, in the use of what buildings are around, in the use of the atomic breath, but in also the colors and the lighting and all of this and the action and how we're going to go about it, I think is really, really, really smart thing that they're doing right now.
I agree. Also, smart bringing back Ifukube once again. This is one of
Yes,
my favorite scores of any
it's
of the
great.
Godzilla films. I think it says obviously does a great job reprising the themes. It
I love the theme. Godzilla's theme is just so good.
Yes, it
It's
is.
so good.
It makes you get a good feeling when it just
Yeah.
starts coming on. But no, this is what like as much as I'm like okay on the movie, I say okay, it's not like this is a very
Yeah.
watchable movie. It's not
Yes.
I have no issue with being like oh no,
It's not Son of
I gotta watch
Godzilla.
this. Like it's good, but I think it's one of the best scores of the entire franchise. I think
Mm-hmm.
this has a really really good score that both like I said reprises the themes as well as has some new tunes or what have you. Because you get Mothra, you always get sort of a ethereal and comforting
Yeah.
bits to go with the kind of more hardcore action military type of
Mm-hmm.
stuff that it has. So like it's able to kind of blend different ideas in there. But yeah, it's a really good score for this film.
Yeah. It's interesting that he came. It, you. It's interesting that he came back. You know what? I'm thinking about Howard Shore
Okay.
coming back to do the Hobbits,
Hmm.
and I well, those movies I don't care for, but it was like something interesting to have him come back to. Obviously, his music for the original Lord of the Rings trilogy is like so integral and so important, and was done in a certain way.
So if we're
And
gonna bring back the Jackson universe specifically, it makes sense to
yeah,
have
but
Shore.
it's like it's not as powerful, or it's not as dynamic. To me, the Hobbit scores aren't as dynamic as the ones in Lord of the Rings, and so that's obviously that's it's just interesting to look at this where it's like he's coming back. It's like obviously he's using the theme that he created, which is phenomenal,
It's
and why
interesting.
change it? But like he got to iterate on it in the last movie and take it back to like an original place, and in this one it's like just being really fun and musically interesting while still working with the themes he's already
It's
established.
funny because I think comparatively, John Williams coming back to do the prequel scores, I think those scores are, regardless of the movies, I think those scores are pretty outstanding.
Hmm.
They have they have new iconic themes to go with the series that already has some of the most iconic themes of all time when it comes to cinema.
Yeah.
And so the fact that he's able to create Duel of Fates or any
Oh
number of
yes.
themes that are entirely new within a already 30-year franchise at that
Hmm.
time, it's like it's impressive.
Yeah.
So like sure I get it, and it's is a review of the Hobbit movies and Star Wars movies now, but now it's like, well, I can see that to a point because it's like even though like what the end point is of the prequels, there's still like stakes and things that I recognize as far as like what are we
Hmm.
building to. Where the Hobbit, you're more like, what are we building to exactly?
Well,
They want to get their gold, and
they
then
were trying
what?
to get
Then
to the
there's a
mountain,
dragon,
and the first
and
movie ends with them looking
at the
at the
mountain.
mountain in the distance.
Although I think that's still the best of those three movies. But
This isn't going to become a review of The Hobbit, or else we'd be here for another hour.
yeah, it's just
But
there.
yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. I think about it in
The,
terms of like composers coming back to things and lands that they've already established years after the fact, and what that does. I was trying to think of Alexander Desplat. It's like in 20 years, if Frankenstein 2.0 gets greenlit and Guillermo del Toro brings him back, it's like what would he do with with Frankenstein? So, but yeah, I'm always happy to have Akira involved.
No, I hear you, and no, like to wrap a bow on that, I get what you're saying because it's obviously music's very important to any film that
Yes.
wants to have a score in it, and the idea of those with those Hobbit movies, like yeah, there's a necessity if you want to like make sure those universes kind of congeal with each other. Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
have Howard Shore be in there, but when you want to like you want a certain kind of motivation that I think brings to life what the composer is able to do. And if it seems, I don't want to say confusing because I don't know their relationship. Maybe Howard Shore exactly knew what he wanted to do, and he did exactly what he wanted to do. But there's just something there as far as the looking at the reception of those films
the vibes
and how
is
they're
different.
Yeah, exactly. The vibes are different. Therefore, it's like whatever new things are being created doesn't seem like they landed nearly as hard in the ways, like I mentioned, the John Williams stuff, or in the case of these Godzilla films, being able to use those themes and use modernized versions of what we're getting out of these characters.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
We're trying to find some kind of relation between these three very different things.
Yeah,
that's as close as we're gonna get.
Yeah.
I want to note something that we can't really, I can't like express as far as what the film's doing, but I just want to like make sure we're aware of this. The posters in this series are outstanding. These are my favorite posters of all the
like the Biollante one.
The Biollante one. The Ghidorah one is him wrapped around him with nukes and stuff. It's so cool.
Oh gosh,
it's a really cool poster.
Okay.
This one's great, where it's just Godzilla like standing, and there's like a giant Mothra behind him, and there's a larval Mothra, and I think Battra maybe is, and I forget if Battra's in there, but like the art of all, like, and you're gonna see when you look at all the posters that even the Return of Godzilla one's just that it's kind of our logo right now. We just warped it, but like it's this great just Godzilla just shot of him being huge over all these skyscrapers. The art of the Heisei era is so cool. I just want to make sure we acknowledge that to some degree, because it's like the Showa era posters are like classic posters. Some of them are, and eventually they just become like big faces, Godzilla, a monster, and a lot of text all over the place.
You know how I feel about modern posters, but
these ones are just like art.
They're really cool.
They're very very cool, and so I just want to make sure we said that out loud. Really cool, because I keep forgetting to mention that week after week. Because the Biollante one is really cool. It's like this crazy like abstract rose design, and Godzilla's there.
Yeah,
it's like,
and
right.
I think because I'm thinking about like what are my favorite posters. One of my favorite posters is like a poster I just will never get to have. It's the -1. The boat has exploded and Godzilla's like staring with the blue eyes, and it was the IMAX poster. And I was like, can I just get that just without IMAX plastered across the thing? So yeah, I do think that this I'm appreciating in this era as we've gone on, because when Return I was like, oh boy. I'm appreciating just the newer, weirder, different. I've settled into this. I wasn't sure, because Biollante was second, and even though I did enjoy that, I wasn't as overcome with love for it as I imagine a lot of people are, because I told you that was like the movie. When I tell people that we do this podcast, everybody's like, oh my god, that's my favorite Godzilla, I can't wait for you to watch it. And it's like I wasn't overwhelmed with love, but like the more that I've sunk in with this era, the more I'm like, okay, even if I'm not overwhelmed with love for the series, there's like interesting things for me to glom onto. And for us to talk about, obviously. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the next ones.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna get to some. There's at the very least, there's always fun to be ahead of Mechagodzilla.
I'm excited because Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla was my second favorite of the Showa era. So I am excited to see how he's going to be brought back and used, in particular, because then I know what Legendary is going to do with him way down the line. Which will be something really interesting to talk about. So yeah, I'm excited.
All right.
But before we get to Mecha, what are we doing?
Well, of course, where one Mothra goes, many follow.
Yes.
And so we're not stopping with Godzilla vs. Mothra. There is a whole Mothra rebirth trilogy that occurred during this time in the Heisei era in the 90s. And we are going to watch all three of those movies.
Yeah.
And we're going to do our next episode's going to be our recap of all three Rebirth of Mothra, the Rebirth of Mothra trilogy. So yeah, we'll take another short break from Godzilla in order to make sure we catch up with everyone's favorite queen of the monsters. And I have not seen these, so I'm excited to catch up with the Rebirth of Mothra trilogy. Man. Yes, I'm aware that there's going to be some familiar faces.
I would expect so. Yeah.
And
they all live in the same place.
And I'll be very curious if Infant Island has more of a presence in these ones as well.
Maybe some more people. But the twins are just there by themselves.
That is definitely the plan. So
okay,
yeah. Anything else on this?
I don't think so. I enjoyed it.
Good.
I enjoyed Indiana Jones -0.
I too enjoyed Indiana Jones and the Temple of the Hidden Mothra.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm Aaron Neuwirth. as I said, I write for League of Entertainment. Movie reviews can be found there. Everything I do can be found on my Substack page, dakotazeats.substack.com. I co-host the podcast Out Now with Aaron and Abe. My friend Abe and I discuss weekly movie releases with various film critics and friends of the show. And I'm on all the socials at Aaron's PS4.
And my name is Terence Johnson. You can find my work at lenoirauteur.net. And I am on Twitter and TikTok at Terence B. Johnson with one R, no A.
All right. And now, until next week when we get back with, or 2 weeks from now when we get back with more Mothra, this has been
Two Black Guys Talk Godzilla.